What up guys, Gangspranks are back with a brand new video, and today I am here with a follow-up video to a video I posted a few weeks back. I think it's about a month's time now, where I did a fantasy booking for AEW All Out. I created that video because AEW All Out was a couple weeks away, and they only had like 3 matches announced, and it was like a big pay-per-view. I think it's like the WrestleMania. I've seen some people say that Double or Nothing is the WrestleMania. I'm going to say All Out, in my opinion. So I created that video. In case you missed it, go check it out. I fantasy booked the whole pay-per-view card for All Out, and I booked the trios tournament as well. And I left that video. I don't want to sound a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I'm like, you know what, we'll do a follow-up eventually, and here we are. So today, I actually got quite a bit to talk about. I watched a lot of wrestling. I haven't watched this much wrestling since like I was doing the weekly wrestling review videos. Like that, it felt like that when I was watching this, because I'm like, originally I was gonna watch like All Out, and then I'm like, oh shit, NXT has a show. I haven't watched NXT in a while. Haven't really kept up too much with the 2.0 stuff. I might check that out. Oh shit, WWE has a show. This was all in the same weekend. So the weekend of All Out, you had on Saturday was Clash at the Castle. Then on Sunday, you had Worlds Collide. It was Sunday afternoon, and then Sunday night you had All Out. So it was like, that was quite a bit. And then I got sick, and that kind of set me back. That's why this video's a little old. Some of the stuff might be a little outdated that we're going to talk about, but I still want to get my thoughts out there, because I did watch all this fucking wrestling. So let me capitalize on it. Let me upload a video for it. So anyways, so that delay allowed me to watch the Dynamite Grand Slam. Originally, at the end of the video that I planned to do was I wanted to do my predictions for the Grand Slam show. I ended up just watching it because I'm like, fuck it, this video's already delayed. Let me hold it back a little bit. Watch Grand Slam, and I also watched TNA Victory Road, which I honestly had no plans to do, but I saw something like they have their biggest pay-per-view coming up soon, Bound for Glory. It's in like 2 weeks or something, and then they're gonna have a small pay-per-view Victory Road before that. I was like, what? So I was like, you know what, let me check it out. There's some pretty good matches. So yeah, a lot of wrestling I watched, and now I'm here to talk about it all. So sit back, relax, maybe get a drink, some food, however you want to watch this. If you want to play some games and then leave this in the background, you can do that. I put some video in case you want to watch some matches, some of the matches we're going to talk about. Yeah, let's get into it, because there was quite a bit, because like the whole All Out, Fallout, that's what people have been calling it. They've been calling it, instead of All Out, they've been calling it Fall Out, because there's a lot of drama that came out from that pay-per-vieiew. Suspensions, fights, people getting released. So there was a lot of drama. I'll give my 2 cents on that after. Let's start talking about these shows, because there's quite a bit to talk about. So the first show I watched, I know it's not in chronological order, started out with NXT Worlds Collide. I haven't really watched too much NXT for a while. Like when Adam Cole and Aleister Black and all those guys were there, Undisputed Era, Johnny Gargano, I was kind of keeping up with it more. I haven't really kept up too much with 2.0. When they rebooted it, I kind of watched some clips of the first few weeks, and then I'm like, it's there, but it wasn't really for me. They just recently closed NXT UK because they're going to be relaunching NXT Europe. All the NXT UK guys have come to NXT, and then they did this show, Worlds Collide. And let's go through it real quick. So our first match, which actually, speaking of the NXT UK guys, has no NXT UK guys. It is a NXT superstar versus a main roster superstar. We had Carmelo Hayes defending his NXT North American Championship against Ricochet. That was the opener. It was a good match, solid opener, very fast-paced. Of course, these two guys like to fly. Carmelo ended up winning. It's cool to see Ricochet in NXT for a throwback match. For me personally, I would have liked to seen a UK guy get this spot, just because these UK guys are going to be appearing on NXT, so it's like this would be a nice little spot for them, challenging for the title, kind of give them a good rub, introduce them to the NXT audience. Even though it's NXT UK and NXT 2.0, I guarantee there's like people that don't know anybody from the NXT UK roster. No one keeps up with it. You can go check the YouTube views. They show that no one really watches it, no one really cared. you know, there's some guys. You know, you got Tyler Bate, Ilya Dragunov. There was another one. I don't remember the name. There was some big names, but for the most part, nobody really cared. So it would have been nice to have another UK person kind of get a spotlight here. But they brought in Ricochet. It was a good match. Like I said, good way to start the show. Carmelo ended up winning. I've watched a little bit of Carmelo when they rebooted NXT, but I really like the team of Carmelo and Trick Williams. I think they really play off each other well. Like, Trick Williams is a good hype man. Carmelo's great in the ring. I really like this pair. Next, we got a 4-way unification match for the NXT Tag Team titles and the NXT UK Tag Team titles. We have Pretty Deadly, Briggs and Jensen, Gallus, and the Creed brothers. None of these teams I was familiar with, to be honest. I've heard a lot about the Creeds. I enjoyed them in the match. Briggs and Jensen, they were not bad. Gallus, they weren't in the match for too long. And Pretty Deadly, they're awesome. I am a big fan of Pretty Deadly. I've seen some clips. Even in this match, I really enjoyed their whole shtick. But overall, it was a good match. Pretty Deadly wins and are the new unified champions. They're the NXT UK champions and the NXT 2.0 champions. Yeah, Pretty Deadly, they're awesome. I really enjoyed watching the Creed brothers. Really, specifically Julius Creed. He has a good look. You know, he was good in the ring. Fun little spot. I think it was Julius. I think he's the taller one. They're having the match, whatever. He gets hyped up. He pulls down the straps because he wears a singlet, kind of like Kurt Angle. And then they do a move. And then he sets up for another move. And then he gets hyped up again. He puts the straps back on. And then fucking takes them off. I thought it was funny. And, yeah, Gallus and Briggs and Jensen, they weren't in the match too long. I would have liked to see more of Gallus. Not to say I wasn't impressed. I didn't get enough. They were in there for a very short period of time. Briggs and Jensen, they were okay. Pretty Deadly wins. I think that was the right choice. I really liked them. Pretty Deadly wins after Damon Kemp turns on the Creeds. They're all part of a faction called the Diamond Mine. You're probably familiar with. I remember when Diamond Mine was like, there's the Japanese guy, I forgot his name, Sakamoto or something like that. I'm probably butchering that. I don't remember his name. He was around for a few weeks, then he got fucking released in the middle of them doing the storyline. You had Kurt Stallion. I don't know what his, I think that might have been his WWE name, or is that his name now? I think it's Kurt Stallion. Again, I could be wrong. I don't really keep up with it. But I just remember when they put that group together, it was like next week they were done because they were doing the stupid releases, and Diamond Mine was one of those that were affected. So, yeah, I know they're doing a story. Roderick Strong was attacked in the parking lot. I don't know where they're going with that. We'll have to wait to see. But anyways, enough about that match. Next match, I actually really enjoyed this match. I was not expecting to really enjoy this match, and I'll talk about this in a second. Next match was Mandy Rose, Blair Davenport, and Miko Satomura in a unification match for the NXT 2.0 and the NXT UK Championship, Women's Championship. This is a good match. Honestly, I was not expecting. I'm going to be honest, when I see a women's match on TV, kind of a bathroom break for me. I kind of check out. I might go on my phone. I know that sounds horrible. I grew up watching women's wrestling when it was like the Divas, and you know, they took like these women and they kind of trained them, and usually it was just a horrible match. The women have greatly improved over the past few years. And because now they wrestle like the men, and you know, there's not like stupid women spots. No offense, they're taken more seriously. But I still have that thought in the back of my head where like, oh my god, this is a women's match. It's gonna be like just a shitty botch fest. I'm not gonna enjoy it. I really enjoyed this match. I thought all three women killed it. The last like minute and a half of this match was fucking like perfection. Like, it flowed like water. It was great. Like, everything was just so smooth. Mandy's great. Blair's great. Miko's great. I really enjoyed this match. It might have been my favorite match on the show, to be honest. Mandy ended up winning. She's the new unified UK and NXT Women's Champion. And I would actually recommend watching this match. I would. I really enjoyed it. And Mandy's killing it. Honestly, she was one of those women that I saw some stuff when she was like in NXT. And, you know, she was pretty horrendous. I mean, you got to start somewhere. But it's like, oh, you know, she's just this hot broad. You know, she's going to do wrestling for a few years and then she's going to take off, do acting, modeling, whatever the fuck. But, you know, ever since she's come to NXT, she's really improved herself. And that's good to see. I can't wait to see her on the main roster. But right now, she's killing it on NXT. Next match, we have Doudrop and Nikki Ash versus Katana Chance and Kaden Carter in an NXT Women's Tag Team title match. I thought it was pretty good. I'm going to be honest, this was one of those matches I was ready to hate. I think it was Katana Chance, whoever is the white one. I remember watching a clip of her on NXT one time, and it was bad. It was very sloppy, a lot of fucked up moves. But seeing her here, she was actually really good. She's improved greatly. Kaden Carter was good. I like her. I'm not really a fan of the gimmick, though, because, like, it comes off as, like, a knockoff Naomi with the whole neon glow-in-the-dark stuff. But I really enjoyed them. I thought they were a good team. It was a good little match. Kaden and Katana won and retained their title. So, this one actually surprised me. I was ready to hate it, and it was a good little match. Next, there was a backstage promo with Grayson Waller. I've seen a little bit of Grayson Waller. I've really enjoyed what I watched, and he cut a fucking promo here that was incredible. Loved it. He talked about how his mom, because he's feuding with Apollo Crews on NXT, and he cut this awesome promo about his mom being disappointed in him. She called him and told him that she was disappointed, and just his delivery, his response, it was just awesome. Just the one thing there's two things I don't like about Grayson. One is his finisher. I fucking hate that rolling through the bottom rope stunner thing. I just think it looks so fucking stupid. Like, in wrestling, you're supposed to suspend your disbelief, but the move is just so fucking dumb. If he was a babyface, maybe, but as, like, I guess he's like a cocky heel, but I don't know. I hate it. I hate it. Get a new move. I don't remember what the other thing was, but it was mainly his finisher. His finisher irks me quite a bit. Great on the mic. Fucking excellent interviews. And then last but not least, there was only 5 matches on the show. We have Braun Breaker and Tyler Bate in a unification NXT World Title match. So NXT World Title, NXT UK. Well, is it the NXT UK World Championship? Because how is it the UK and World Championship? I don't know. NXT UK Championship and the NXT Men's Championship, whatever. This was a really good match. I really enjoyed this as well. This actually might have been the best match on the show, but I really did like the women's match, so I did want to give that a special shout out. Braun wins and is the new NXT and NXT UK Unified World Champion. They had a killer match. I liked Tyler. It was a very back and forth. You know, early on you had Tyler Bate using a lot of the British style, you know, grappling kind of style to get the upper hand on Braun. And, you know, Braun is just raw power. And, you know, Tyler Bate's more speed and technical. Braun is strength and really just strength. And maybe endurance. You know, you could probably take a beating. I really enjoyed this. I like the women's match. The last, like, minute and a half, 2 minutes of this was fucking fantastic. And I really like the build-up to this match. They did a lot of hype up. They made it seem like a really big match, and it felt like that after watching all the promo packages. And I really enjoyed it. I honestly really enjoyed this match. I really enjoyed the whole show, to be honest. It wasn't a big show, just 5 matches. Didn't overstay its welcome. There was nothing bad. I would say everything was pretty good to good. And some good matches on the shows. As someone who hasn't consumed a lot of wrestling, this is a nice little show to kind of get me back into watching some wrestling. So I actually enjoyed this show a lot. I highly recommend the women's match and the Braun Breaker Tyler Bate match if you have not seen it already. But overall, pretty good show. I might check out some more NXT. We'll see. Actually, one thing I do want to shout out NXT for, I don't know whose decision it is, but whatever. One thing I really like about NXT is their kind of TV special shows. One thing I really like is them using past pay-per-views as marquee shows. You know, they have Halloween Havoc coming up at the end of October. That's a former WCW pay-per-view. They had... Previously, they had In Your House, which was an old WWF pay-per-view. The kind of special before the Worlds Collide one was Heat Wave, which was ECW pay-per-view. I just like the fact that they're using these pay-per-views that have like all this lineage and history, Halloween Havoc, synonymous with that epic Eddie and Ray match that they had where Ray was in the purple jumpsuit and stuff. And I just like that they're acknowledging the past of wrestling, like using these pay-per-views, because WWE owns this. They have the old WWF pay-per-views, WCW pay-per-views, ECW pay-per-views. Use these things, man. There's history there. People are familiar with these brands, with these pay-per-views. So use them. So I do like that. I just wanted to give a small shout out for that. I do like that they're using past pay-per-view titles. I think it's a good fit. But I read something that they're going back to the NXT TakeOver name, which was cool, but I don't know, it just kind of felt repetitive when it's like, the next takeover, and they would name it after like where they would have it. So I wasn't really a fan of that. I like the old like pay-per-view naming system, them using these old titles. Next we have Clash at the Castle. Like I said, this was before NXT Worlds Collide, but I watched this after, so I'm just putting this in the order that I watched. So first match, we had, I guess a little build-up for Clash at the Castle. I believe this was the first major pay-per-view in UK in like 30 years, I believe. They kept talking about SummerSlam 92, but I remember as a kid, I had all these VHSs of like Insurrection, but I guess they weren't considered pay-per-views. I think they were just considered like shows. But I remember enjoying them. They were done in the UK, but I think this is the first like big pay-per-view in the UK. So WWE Clash at the Castle, small little show like NXT Worlds Collide. There wasn't really a lot of matches. This is something I'm going to talk about later. I want to go through the show first. Yeah, it just didn't feel like a big show. In the sense of like the crowd was huge, the arena looked awesome, but like in terms of the card, it looked kind of small. Like it didn't really, when all the hype that they did going into this. Obviously, the big match was the main event, Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, but it just felt like they could have put like a stronger card, especially hyping it up. Oh, we're back in the UK, we're hosting a pay-per-view, blah blah blah. There was only 6 matches. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 matches. There was a lot of big names that didn't even appear. AJ Styles, Bobby Lashley, Miz, Sami Zayn, the Usos. A lot of big names weren't on the show, so it was like it felt like a big show, but it wasn't. They didn't give 100% to it. So I would have liked another like big match with some bigger names, something like that. Give me a US title match with Bobby Lashley. Something, just to kind of put more effort into the show. That was my one complaint. But yeah, let's get into the show. First match, we had Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss taking on Damage Control, which is a team of, it's a new stable consisting of Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. It was just okay. I didn't really enjoy it, to be honest. There were some pretty rough spots. I went in with some higher expectations because I've seen some Bayley stuff before. I haven't seen too much Asuka or Bianca Belair or Alexa Bliss stuff, but I've always heard good things. I've seen a few Io Sky clips on when she was in NXT. Dakota Kai I was not too familiar with. So there were some women that, were held on a high pedigree, and I had some high expectations. I just thought it was a very long match. It was almost a 20-minute match. And, there's matches that go long, and they don't feel that long. This felt long. Or it was long, and it felt very long, so it wasn't really a fun way for me to start the show. So I didn't really enjoy this too much. I thought it was okay. Damage Control wins. Next, a match that has been highly talked about. I remember there's a lot of hype before I even watched this pay-per-view to watch this match. You gotta watch this match. Gunther vs. Sheamus Intercontinental title match. Now, they did some good hype for this because, they really put a tremendous amount of pressure on it. Because before the match, they showed a promo for, so the last time they had a big pay-per-view in the UK was SummerSlam 92, and the main event of that show was Bret Hart, British Bulldog, in the main event for the IC title A lot of people consider that one of the best pay-per-view matches ever. One of the best SummerSlam matches. You know, one of the only times, I think it might have been the only time the IC title was like in a main event position. This is like when the IC title is considered like the workhorse title. So they really built up a high expectation for this match. It was like, if they didn't deliver a good match, because that's what they're competing with. They're competing with Bret Hart and British Bulldog, because that's what they were comparing it to. So I felt bad for Gunther and Sheamus, because like they really had some big shoes to fill, and they kind of emphasized that a lot. And shout out to them. They really delivered. They really did. It was a really good match. Gunther won and retained. They beat the shit out of each other. Very hard-hitting match. A lot of people getting hit in the face, getting hit really hard. Sheamus, you know, he's a very white man. I think he left the match with a nice little red tan. Looked like he tanned on the sun. He got the shit chopped out of him, kicked, punched, elbowed. I mean, Gunther did as well. He took some fucking live rounds. Like I said, they beat the shit out of each other. They really gave it their all. They knew the pressure that they had with the, like I said, the British Bulldog Bret Hart match. And I think they delivered. Honestly, they put on a classic IC title match. A match that I think, you know, did the IC title proud. Crowd was really into it. It was good to see Imperium back in full force. They brought back, I forgot his fucking new name, but Fabian Eichner. He's, I forgot his new name. I haven't seen too much of his new stuff in NXT, so I'm not too familiar with that. But it was good to see Imperium back together. And there's a little brawl between like Sheamus's guys and Imperium. And, you know, Sheamus and Gunther, they're just staring each other down, and then they got into the match. It was really good. I really enjoyed this match. And then after the match, Sheamus got a standing ovation. I've heard a lot about Sheamus recently, where like he's in the prime of his career right now. Like he's putting on some good matches, and you know, people seem to care about him, which is cool because he's been in WWE for a long time. You know, for a while it kind of seemed like people were kind of like he was just a guy. And now it seems like, you know, he's got a new coat of paint on him, and people are really taking a shine to him. So it was good. I enjoyed it. Nice to see them in a match. They lived up to the IC title hype. And Gunther wins and retains. Actually, one thing I do want to say, I am not a fan of the new IC title design. Like, at first glance, it's like, okay, that's not bad. But then you look at, like, the old IC title designs, you're like, this one's gonna shit compared. Like, it looks better than some of the newer designs that they've done with titles, but that's not saying much. The bar's pretty low when it comes to that. So. Next, we have Liv Morgan versus Shayna Baszler for the SmackDown Women's title. This was a good match. I'm going to be honest, I was ready to hate this match too. I haven't seen much of Liv Morgan. I've seen a little bit of Shayna Baszler when she was on NXT. You know, I had this conception. You know, I was talking about the women's wrestling earlier, Liv Morgan. She's like this petite blonde. I know fans are really into her. But I'm like, how good is she really? And I'm going to be honest, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought they put on a good match. It was a little long, like maybe like a minute long. Too long in my opinion. But overall, they had a good match. One thing about a lot of these shows is that I had a lot of low expectations going into these women's matches. And, you know, out of the 4 women's matches I've watched so far, 3 of them have been good. And 1 of them really good. Congrats to the women. You guys are killing it. But I still have this inside of me built in where every time I see a women's match, I kind of like cringe, and it doesn't have my full attention. And I'm trying to break that bad habit, but it's still a problem. Next, we have a fun little tag team match. We had Edge and Rey Mysterio, with Dominic Mysterio taking on Judgment Day, consisting of Finn Balor and Damian Priest, and they were joined by Rhea Ripley. It was a really good match, to be honest. Edge and Mysterio won. It was a very entertaining. Really enjoyed it. They didn't really have any dull moments in the match. It was a good pace. Crowd was really into it. And they shot a big angle after the match where Dominic low blows Edge and attacks his father, Rey Mysterio. Now, they didn't do it on the pay-per-view, but on the Raw after, I believe, Dominic is now aligned with the Judgment Day. I'm interested to see some of the stuff because the small, I haven't seen much of Dominic, but the small stuff that I have seen of him, I haven't really enjoyed. He looks like a guy who's still training, you know? He doesn't look like he should be on a main pay-per-view, or not main pay-per-view, a main TV show. He shouldn't be on a Raw, shouldn't be on a SmackDown, should be in NXT, grinding it out on some indies, whatever. So hopefully, you know, with him kind of stepping away from his father, him being aligned with Judgment Day, hopefully, you know, him being a heel, he can show some personality, maybe develop a different style. Yeah, I'm interested to see how he develops. Other than that, the whole Judgment Day faction, I feel like they should have more people. Like, I feel like the faction should be bigger, like another person or two. Like, you got Finn, who's the main guy. You got Damian, the big guy. You got Rhea, the woman. You got Dominic. He's probably going to take most of the beatings. Maybe a tag team in here? Something. I feel like they're missing something. Give me a little more. Make them feel like an actual powerful faction. Throw some manpower behind that. But maybe this is a small build and they'll eventually lead up to that. But I'd like to see some more people with the Judgment Day. Throw some people in here they're not doing anything with. On the roster, I can't really think of Shelton Benjamin maybe, but I don't know if he'd be a good fit. Mustafa Ali, Cedric, T-Bar. There's just a couple of names that came to mind where they're not really doing anything with them and they could kind of throw them in here. But I don't know if any of those people I mentioned would be a good fit. Maybe T-Bar and Damian is a fucking hard-hitting team. Other than that, I'm not a fan of the Judgment Day name. It just annoys me because when I think Judgment Day, I think of the pay-per-view, and it's hard for me to kind of disassociate that with the pay-per-view because when I was like peak watching wrestling, Judgment Day was a pay-per-view, came around every year, and then naming a group after the pay-per-view, it's just, I don't know, it annoys me a little bit, to be honest. But I love their entrance, I love their music, I love their presentation. Just wish different name and throw another person or two in the group. But other than that, good match. Really enjoyed it. Next, another good match on the show. Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins. Really liked this match. I thought they had a really good back and forth. Crowd was really into it. Crowd was really into everything. I really liked the build up to this. I wasn't familiar with them feuding because last time I was really kind of keeping up with it. Riddle and Orton were teaming up. But I think Randy's injured or taking some time off. I'm not too, or maybe he has a new kid. Maybe. Yeah, whatever. He's not on TV at the moment, so Riddle's doing his thing. He's in a big pay-per-view match with Seth. Well, in a big feud just in general with Seth Rollins. Really like the build-up. You know, it told me the story. I like the whole. They did like a mock UFC not UFC, but I think it was on Fox News. Before UFC fighters Daniel Cormier and John Jones, they did this similar like split screen interview where they're kind of building up to the match. I think it was on Fox News or some sports outlet. And after the interview was over, they're like, "Oh, the camera's off." And then I think it was John Jones initiated. He started talking shit to Daniel Cormier, and they had like a really heated back and forth. They recreated that with Seth Rollins and Riddle. And, you know, they made it personal, talking about their families and stuff. But I enjoyed that. So I enjoyed the original, the John Jones Daniel Cormier one, and I enjoyed them doing it again with the Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins. But other than that, really good match. Seth ended up taking the victory here, and they're building up, I believe, to another match at Extreme Rules coming up. Very interesting attire for both men. You had Riddle. I think he was dressed like Patrick Star from SpongeBob. It might have been Patrick, or it was definitely SpongeBob, the SpongeBob character, but he had like these green trunks with these purple flowers. I think it's Patrick. I'm not the biggest SpongeBob fan. And then you had Seth Rollins come out, and he was dressed like Curry Man, former TNA wrestler. Just a weird attire for this like blood feud. Our main event, we had Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre. This match they've been hyping up a lot. I haven't really kept up too much with the Roman Reigns Undisputed Universal title stuff. We'll talk more about that after, because I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of his whole gimmick and stuff, but I guess I'll talk about it now, fuck it. I just don't like that Raw is kind of like directionless at the moment. where I like read the results whenever they happen on a weekly basis, and just them not having a world title is just, I don't know, it lacks direction, because Roman is mainly a SmackDown guy, and usually they're mainly focusing like on SmackDown having the big stuff, the world title stuff. Yeah, just Raw just has nothing. They just had like the US title. They've been doing some stuff with that to make it seem important, but I think you still need a world title on that show, especially like it's weird because like the brands are, each show has its own brand, but then you have some people who kind of cross over. For the most part, everyone kind of sticks to one brand besides a handful of people. So it's like, fuck, give Raw something. You know, you got all these guys, Seth, Riddle, AJ, Lashley, Miz, Ciampa, Gargano, Owens, Austin Theory. Give them something to fucking fight over. Give them a world title. But I do like Roman carrying both titles. It fits well with this whole head of the table, tribal chief stuff. So I like him having both belts, but like, it's really fucking wrong, in my opinion. Anyways, let's get into the match. Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, undisputed Universal title match. Great match, honestly. Crowd was super into this. The one thing I thought that was really stupid was Drew McIntyre, Scottish. Show takes place in the UK. And they're really making it seem like Drew McIntyre's like, he's coming home, he's going to win in front of all his friends and family, and his friends and family might be at the show, but that's not his country. It's not. So it's just really weird how much they tried to hype him up as like this hometown hero, but that's not his hometown. So I just couldn't get over that. I just thought it was super weird. But anyways, end of the match. Last few minutes we had Drew McIntyre. Looks like he's about to get the 3 count, like about to get the victory. But someone in a hood pulls out the referee. And it is the debuting Solo Sikoa coming from NXT, the prize street fighter, I believe was his gimmick in NXT. McIntyre gets distracted, turns around, eats a pin, Reigns wins. You had a funny little spot during the match where Austin Theory came out to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase. He got knocked out by Tyson Fury. And then speaking of Tyson Fury, the last few minutes of this pay-per-view, what the fuck were they thinking? Like, it was just so fucking weird. Like, you have this killer match, right? Roman, Drew, they're going at it. Like, they put everything on the line. They have this awesome match. And then, so the match is over, whatever. Roman wins. You have Tyson Fury come out. Well, he's in the crowd. He comes into the ring. He stares down Roman, and they shake hands. Roman, he leaves. And that just leaves McIntyre and Tyson Fury in the ring. Fury congratulates McIntyre. He's like, you know, you put up a good fight. We're still proud of you, whatever. And then they start singing. They start doing karaoke. And it's just fucking weird. It's just so strange. Like, we just finished this awesome match where the crowd was super into it. And then to end the show, we have this famous boxer and this not hometown guy who just lost. It gets worse than that. So there's an awkward moment as they're singing and the camera's kind of panning to the crowd. They focus on a guy who has a shirt that says he's a better dad than Chris Benoit. That's a big yikes.com. Pretty sure the cameraman was fired, whoever showed that, but like, you have this fucking awkward singing thing, and then you show this guy with a Chris Benoit t-shirt. It was a fucking hell of a way to end the pay-per-view. I don't know. I thought it was terrible. I'm gonna be honest. I thought it was a little rough, the ending there. But other than that, I loved the last match. They really, really, really hyped up this match. Like, you would have thought McIntyre was going to win. Like, in the promo packages, they showed him, like, when he was starting out, when he was in FCW, when he came to the main roster. They gave him his old music. They did everything in their power to make you believe he was going to win. But unfortunately, he did not. So, I don't know where they're going with the Roman stuff. I think, honestly, at this point, the only person who would probably beat him, because he's beaten everybody. That's his whole thing. I've beaten Orton. I've beaten Edge. I've beaten Drew McIntyre a few times. I don't know if he's faced Bobby Lashley. That could be one. Yeah, the only logical person is Cody Rhodes when he comes back from injury and comes back, wins the Royal Rumble, and then goes on to WrestleMania. Cody and the Tribal Chief for the Undisputed Universal title, whatever they're calling it. And I think they're building towards The Rock, right? But I don't think The Rock's gonna beat. I honestly don't know where they're gonna go with this. We'll have to wait to see. I don't even know who the next person they're kind of building up to. Extreme Rules, I don't know who his next feud's gonna be with. Actually, give me a second. Let me check Wikipedia. Let me see if they announced the world title match. Okay, so I am looking at the Wikipedia for Extreme Rules, and yeah, I forgot about Karrion Kross. That's the big program right now, him and Drew McIntyre, but other than that, I don't think there's going to be a world title match at Extreme Rules. They haven't really set one up. I don't even know who you'd face. Overall, Clash at the Castle I thought was pretty big. You know, I aired my grievances at the beginning. I wish they would have had another match. They did have a pre-show match. It was a 6-man. It was Street Profits and Riddick Moss versus Gable, Otis, and somebody else. I don't remember who the 6th person was. But yeah, I wish they had another match for this show. That would have been my only complaint. Just a bigger match. This is a big pay-per-view. You hyped it up. Give us a bigger match. I know the big selling point was obviously McIntyre and Roman, but to kind of round out the pay-per-view, I think another match would have been good. Next, we have a big pay-per-view. Holy shit. This one was long. You know, what I think is funny is, you know, when I was doing my fantasy booking for All Out, I'm like, you know, I have these 16 matches, and 16 is a little much for a pay-per-view, so we're going to do a special Rampage show, and then, you know, the rest of the matches on the pay-per-view. And Tony Khan's like, you know what, 16 is too much, but you know what's not enough? 15. 15 matches. Holy fuck me, what a pay-per-view. This thing was fucking loaded. Way too long, though. Oh my god. It took me like 4 days to watch this whole show. I'm going to be honest. From the pre-show, because I watched the pre-show too, because there were some matches that I wanted to watch. Yeah, just too many matches. I know you want to put everyone on the fucking pay-per-view, but holy shit. This was a lot. Let's start going through this, because like I said, there's 15 matches on this goddamn pay-per-view. First match, we had a mixed tag team title match. The AAA mixed tag team titles were on the line. Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello defending their titles against Ortiz and Ruby Soho. Pretty good match. Sammy and Ty win. I love the way that it started. You had a backstage promo with Sammy and Ty. There's like a horn that starts interrupting their interview. And Sammy's like, what the fuck? Like, who's honking? And then it's Ruby and Ortiz in a golf cart, and they end up nailing Sammy. It was a brutal match for Ruby Soho. I felt really bad for her. She took 2 brutal moves. One looked like it killed her. The other one just really, really hurt. So in the first 2 minutes, she's going for like a poison Rana on Sammy, which is a reverse Frankensteiner, reverse Hurricane Rana, whatever you want to call it. Or think of like a reverse Alabama Slam. And then Sammy has her. He's holding onto her legs. Ty comes out of nowhere, kicks her in the head, and the way she lands on her neck is fucking scary. It's one of the scariest things I've ever seen in wrestling. It looked brutal. Like, holy shit. You can go watch this. The pre-show is free on their YouTube page. The All Out, I think it's just the All Out pre-show, if you're interested in checking it out. Yeah, literally the first 2 minutes of the match, Ruby almost breaks her neck. Fucking crazy. And then in the end of the match, Ty hits her finisher, and then Ruby ends up breaking her nose, taking that move. So, fucking brutal night for her. But overall, pretty good match. Sammy and Ty win. Next we have Hook and Angelo Parker versus the FTW title match. For the FTW title, it was okay. Like, I don't know if I would say this is Hook's best match, but it's definitely the match where it had the most going on, because usually he just eats up his opponents. Here he was actually getting beaten on a little bit. It was a nice little back and forth. Hook ended up winning. And then after the match, Menard and Angelo attack Hook, and then Action Bronson makes the save. and helps Hook. And obviously they built to a tag team match at Grand Slam Rampage. And, you know, I'm happy for Action Bronson. I like some of his music, to be honest. He's really lost a lot of weight in the past few years. He used to be huge, and, you know, he's definitely trimmed down a lot. And the best part about this, to be honest, I'm really happy about him besides all the other stuff. He's just been a wrestling fan for a long time. Like, if you've listened to his music, he's done a bunch of references to wrestling. So he's obviously been a wrestling fan for quite some time. So him doing this match, I haven't watched it, but, you know, he's going to take it serious because he doesn't want to look stupid. And, which is good, because a lot of these celebrities, you know, before it was just like, they do something, it looks fucking horrendous, and, you know, WWE makes the news, you know, TMZ, whatever the case. But in the past few years, you've had a lot of celebrities, not even just in WWE, you know, TNA, AEW with Shaq and stuff, TNA, I forgot the guy's name, he was a football player. They had a match at Slammiversary, and D'Angelo Williams, I want to say, I don't know, the name just popped in my head, I don't know if that's correct. But he ended up, I remember he surprised everybody, and he killed it in his appearance. And then, you know, obviously Bad Bunny, his match at WrestleMania. So it's good to see that, you know, all these, Knoxville was another one. I would say that was a different kind of match, but, you know, it was still good. Yeah, it's good to see these celebrities taking, like, if they're going to be in a match, take it seriously and stuff like that. Here's another one, Logan Paul. I've seen a little bit. I saw a little bit of the SummerSlam match. We'll talk more about Logan Paul later on. There's a little news section, and, you know, he's been in some wrestling news recently. Yeah, he's another one. Trained really hard. You know, obviously he did the training for the boxing stuff. And now he's transitioned into wrestling, and, you know, I've heard a lot of good things. From what I've seen, he's pretty good. I'm actually going to check out the Action Bronson Hook match. Next, we have Kip Sabian, who we haven't seen in God knows how long, taking on Pac for the AEW All Atlantic Championship. Pretty good match. Pac wins. He retains. Wasn't really a fan of the ending. I thought it was really weird. You had Pac, he starts stomping on Kip. Kip starts laughing. Pac goes for his finisher and wins. It was just really weird. I know what I probably read there didn't sound too weird, but the way it played out was pretty awkward. And it was kind of weird that, like, a weird match where Kip Sabian was the babyface and Pac was the heel. I enjoyed Kip, you know, he hasn't been in, I think he's been doing, like, Dark and Elevation and stuff like that. But as far as, like, a TV match, he hasn't really done anything in front of a big live crowd like this in a while. And crowd was pretty into it. Hopefully they can find something for him to do, because I can see him just kind of fading into obscurity again, into, like, Dark and Elevation after this match. So hopefully they either continue this feud or do something with them. I enjoyed seeing Kip Sabian here. So yeah, Pac won. After the match, Orange Cassidy comes out, and Pac tells him to fuck off, and then you have Kip yelling at his mask, his box mask. And then the last match, the final match of the pre-show, we had Eddie Kingston versus Tomohiro Ishii. It was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. Eddie Kingston ended up picking up the victory. They saw what Sheamus and, I was going to call him Walter. I'll just call him Walter, Gunther, whatever. They saw what they did at Clash of the Castle, and they were like, you know what? We got to double that. And they just beat the fuck out of each other. God damn. I'll just say this. If you take a drink for every chop that was thrown in this match, you will die. You will definitely die. But other than that, they had a good match. And very, like I said, very hard-hitting. And they built this up as, like, their second match. The first match, I believe, was at Forbidden Door. Second match was here, so maybe there's going to be a rubber match, a third match. We'll see where that ends up being. All right, so our first match of AEW officially. This would technically be our fifth match, but this is the first match for the main show. Started out with the Casino Ladder match. Wheeler Yuta, Rey Fenix, Roosh, Dante Martin, Andrade, Claudio, Pentagon Jr., and a mystery opponent. Pretty good match. We'll talk about the ending. Not a fan of the end. Wasn't really a fan of this whole thing, to be honest. The end was weird. I'll talk about that in a second. Another thing I really fucking hated about this match is it didn't seem like anybody wanted to win. Like, anytime someone came in, they just wanted to do, like, a cool spot, a cool move. No one seemed like they wanted to win the match. Like, I think it was Rush or Andrade. I think it was Andrade. When he came out, Rush was already in the ring. They have everyone laid out. You can easily go up and climb the ladder and win. And what do they do instead of climbing the ladder and having literally a free ticket to win the match? They're like, let's set up some ladders. Let's set up some fucking plunder around the ring. And it was just like, do you not want to be world champion? Because that's what that is. That is a free match at the world title whenever you want. You know, it's a Money in the Bank briefcase, basically. You want to do it after Moxley, you know, fights Punk? Do it. You can cash in on Punk or Moxley. But it was stupid. They didn't want to go for the title. It really took me out of the match. I know it's all predetermined, but you gotta leave some realism. Don't you want to be world champion? Isn't that why you're wrestling? You want to make money. You want to be on the big shows, big pay-per-views, big feuds, make a lot of money. You want to win the title. Not do a cool spot. So, yeah, I thought that was really dumb. There was the Andrade one specifically. I think there was another one. I can't remember who. Yeah, they came in. They could have won. They're like, fuck it, let me do some stuff. And then the end of the match, you had a bunch of guys dressed in black. They come out. They attack everyone in the match. One of them grabs the chip. He gives it to the Joker, who comes out last. And the Joker is the victor. And we're going to talk more about the Joker and stuff at the end. But all the guys in black except the Joker ended up unmasking. And it was Stokely Hathaway, the Gun Club, Lee Moriarty, Ethan Page. And the, not debuting, because we'll talk about this in a second, William Morrissey. And to be honest, this match killed the fucking crowd. Like, they fucking hated the ending. Yeah, we had William Morrissey, literally the Dynamite before All Out. He makes his debut. He beats up all the wingmen. It was just really weird. It's like, why would you not save that as a surprise for the pay-per-view? Like, oh my god, who is that fucking gigantic man in the ring? Oh my god, it's the debuting William Morrissey, but you have, like, I don't know why they had it on Dynamite. And even on that Dynamite, it was just so fucking random. Like, I liked it. You had the wingman like, yo, we're not on the show. We're gonna protest until somebody stops us. And then you have Morrissey debut and just eat them all up. It was just really weird. I would have saved it for the pay-per-view. Just my opinion. But yeah, now there's this group of all these guys. We'll talk more about them later. Anyways, next match, you got Hangman Page, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds taking on Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in the finals of the AEW Trios Tournament. Winner becomes the first AEW Trios Champion. This was a really good match. Omega and Bucks ended up winning. We'll talk more about them later. Yeah, I wonder if they're like, you know what? Fuck, the first match, people hated it. Quick, we gotta throw something people are gonna love. Alright, Hangman, Page, Bucks, go, 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 go. I think that's what they might. I don't know if they called an audible here. I don't know if they were meant to go on second. Because I would have thought this match would have gone on later. Because it's kind of a big match. But I think it was the right match to go on next. Because they really brought the crowd back into it after the crowd fucking hated the first match. So, yeah, anyways, Bucks and Omega win. They're the first Trios champion. Great match. Great story. To be honest, for a second I thought like Hangman, Silver, and Reynolds were going to win. Like, there was a spot in the match specifically. So Silver, Omega puts Silver up for the one-winged angel. He counters into a pin. And I was like, 1, 2. And like Omega just kicked out. And the crowd actually thought that they won. And it was like, whoa. Like, obviously the Bucks and Omega were probably going to win. But even for that split second where you made people believe that Hangman, Silver, and Reynolds were going to win the match, it was pretty cool. That's wrestling right there. Wrestling at its finest. You know someone's gonna win, but you make people believe that the other people have a chance and they could actually win the match. So I thought this was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. Again, Omega and Bucks, the first AEW Trios champion. We'll talk more about them later. Next we had Jade Cargill versus Athena for the AEW TBS title. Pretty good match. I've seen a little bit of Jade, and she was very hit or miss. Athena was good. Really enjoyed her. I watched a little bit of her stuff in NXT. Didn't really watch too much of her stuff on the main roster. I don't think I watched any of her stuff on the main roster. So I was more familiar with her stuff from NXT. She was better than what I remembered. Like, I thought she was pretty smooth in this match. The match was actually better than I expected. I thought it was going to be kind of, like I said, low expectations for the women's matches. Jade is kind of hit and miss too, so I'm like, these two things might not work together, but they actually put on a pretty good match. Yeah, the crowd really was not into it because, you know, they were kind of burned out from the last match. Like, they were really into the trios match. They had to regenerate their, they had to regen their mana for their next match. So this match was kind of like a cool the crowd down and then let them relax for the next match. But yeah, pretty good. One thing I do want to mention, you know, Excalibur, the man of 1,000 references, really fucked up here. You had Jade Cargill come out, you know, she's dressed as She-Hulk. She's got like green paint on her and stuff, and she's got like a She-Hulk singlet. And Excalibur's like, oh, look at Jade. She's green, like the color of money. It's like, my man, you know every single reference. You can say all these weird wrestling maneuvers. Tope con Hilo, Arihara, moonsaults, whatever the fuck. Say all these things. I don't know. I just thought it was funny that he fucked that up. Jade ended up winning, retaining. I think that was. I think everyone expected that. Next, a match that when it was announced, I was like, "This is shit," and then they changed it, and I was like, "Okay, this is legit." And that match is FTR and Wardlow. Formerly, it was that versus Jay Lethal, Sanjay, and Satnam Singh. But Jay Lethal's like, you know what? I got some friends, some old friends of mine. They're interested in coming in. And it was the Motor City Machine Guns from TNA. We'll talk more about them later in the Victory Road portion. It was a good match. I really enjoyed it. I loved seeing Lethal and Sanjay and the Machine Guns together. Like, it really brought me back to my days of watching TNA. Like, I loved watching it. I loved the X Division. Loved all four of those guys. This was like a real TNA like love letter. Like, I think Tony Khan was a fan of TNA. And yeah, I really enjoyed seeing the Machine Guns like in a big match on a big pay-per-view in front of a big crowd. Because to be honest, you know, Impact Wrestling, you watch any show, they're in like a small little studio. They might have 200 people or something like that. Wrestling in front of like 200 and then like, I think it was like 15,000 in the arena. A little different. So it was nice just to see the Motor City Machine Guns get a spotlight on a big stage. Hopefully this actually like makes people check out the Machine Guns because they are a fucking awesome tag team. Because I know there's fans of AEW that like, you know, all they really watch is AEW. They're not really familiar with like other companies and stuff like that. I would highly recommend watching some Motor City Machine Guns. So anyways, it was a good match. FTR and Wardlow win. After the match, the Machine Guns, Satnam Singh, Sanjay Dutt act like they're going to attack Wardlow and FTR, but Samoa Joe comes out, makes his return, and makes the save. They throw Sanjay in the ring, lay him out, and then Dax Harwood's daughter comes out and pins Sanjay. They did this whole thing where Sanjay was making fun of Dax's daughter, and then obviously this was the big moment where the faces get up on the heels, and yeah, it was a nice little moment. To be honest, I just enjoyed seeing the Machine Guns again on a big stage. That was what that match was for me, so I enjoyed it. Next, we got Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Not much to really say about this. It was a pretty good match. Hobbs won. Next, best match probably that I watched out of all these shows. The Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory for the AEW Tag Team titles. I don't know what I can say besides it was fucking great. Like I said, probably the best match that I watched out of all these. I loved it. The crowd loved it. The crowd was crazy into this. Like, they loved everything. They cheered for everything. I love seeing Billy Gunn getting such a fucking big reaction. Oh, scissor me, dad. Like, I forgot the fucking chat. Scissor me, daddy ass. Like, they were fucking crazy into the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. It was awesome. They had a great match. The crowd really added to this match. Like, it really made it feel like a big match. I think a lot of people had low expectations going into this because, like, such short build-up. You know, it kind of felt like it was thrown together. People felt like FTR probably should have had the world title match. But they fucking killed it. Like, I really enjoyed this match. I can't recommend it enough. I think they should have done the title match here, or title change here, instead of at Grand Slam. We'll talk about Grand Slam, you know, later. But yeah, I think this was the match to kind of pull the trigger on the title change. Like, the reaction they would have got, like, holy fuck, I would have loved to have seen it. I can't say enough good things. I really enjoyed this match. Highly recommend. If there's one thing you're going to watch out of all these matches that I'm talking about, Acclaimed, Swerve in Our Glory, AEW Tag Team title match, All Out. It was perfect. Really enjoyed it. Next, we have Jamie Hayter, Toni Storm, Hikaru Shida, and Britt Baker in a 4-way for the interim AEW Women's title. This was a good match. Toni ended up winning and is the new interim AEW Women's Champion. And I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised how into the crowd was into Jamie Hayter. Like, they were really behind Jamie. Almost to the point where I thought she might win, but Toni ended up pulling the victory, which is fine. I know Jamie's good and stuff, but, like, I didn't know the crowd, like, really loved her like that. Like, she got a fantastic reaction. Like, they really wanted her to win. I would have liked to have seen her win too. Next, we got Jungle Boy Jack Perry taking on Christian Cage. Can't really say too much about this. It wasn't really a match. Christian ended up winning. It was more of like a segment because you got Christian who's injured. Before the match, Luchasaurus comes out, attacks Jungle Boy. Brutal chokeslam on the stage. Luchasaurus takes Jungle Boy, throws him in the ring. Christian hits his finisher and pins him 1, 2, 3. I honestly think this is a good move. It kind of extends the feud. Now we can focus on Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, and then Jungle Boy can get his revenge on Christian when he returns and is fully healed from his surgery. So it's unfortunate that Christian's injured, but I think it's actually going to end up working out better. Even though he's injured, I don't know if his injury will stop him from appearing. Hopefully he can still make appearances and, like, cut promos and stuff like that, because he's been killing it lately with the promos. So I'd like to continue to see him on TV. Next, we had Bryan Danielson and Lionheart Chris Jericho. This was a really good match. Yeah, not much to say here. It was just a really good match. Jericho won. I'm surprised Daniel Garcia didn't get involved. But, yeah, good match. Next, we had a 6-man tag team match. We're almost at the end of the pay-per-view, folks. Miro, Sting, Darby Allin taking on the House of Black, consisting of Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Brody King. This was a pretty good match. Sting and Darby and Miro win. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really into this match at all. I had to watch it like 3 times. I was so burnt out from the show. Like, I like AEW a lot. It's, like I said, it's my favorite promotion. It's the promotion I continuously watch on a weekly basis. Semi-weekly basis. I don't catch it every week. It's just too much. Like, fuck me, 15 matches on a pay-per-view. Like, I enjoyed almost all, like, everything on the pay-per-view, but it still felt like so fucking long. Too much of a good thing is still not good. Too many matches, but it was a pretty good match. And then last but not least, the main event. The catalyst for lots of drama. Well, not the catalyst, the post-interview was the catalyst, but CM Punk, Jon Moxley, AEW World Title Unification match. Well, no, this wasn't I mistyped here. It's not a unification match because they had the unification match on Dynamite. This was actually a good match. I enjoyed it. Punk won. I gotta say, I know as much as people want to shit on Punk right now, I gotta give him his props. Apparently he got injured like 3 minutes into the match. Like, he did a dive to the outside, and I don't know which injury he suffered. I think it was a torn tricep. No, I think that's what Cody suffered. Yeah, I don't know what injury Punk suffered, but he suffered it very early on in the match and then still wrestled for like another 20 minutes. So shout out to him. They had a good match. Really enjoyed it. After the match, the lights go out. A voicemail of Tony Khan starts playing. Starts talking about money and he wants this person to appear or whatever. Then a video of CM Punk plays from Ring of Honor where he's talking about he's the devil and blah blah blah. And then the Joker, who won the first match, the Casino Ladder match, appears. And he unmasks. And of course, it is none other than MJF. MJF comes out. Crowd goes nuts. They do a stare down. Obviously, they were building towards an MJF CM Punk feud. They had to change that. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, I just thought they stared down too long, in my opinion. Like, they stared down for like 4 or 5 minutes, it felt like. And I just think like a solid minute and a half, you know, get MJF out there. Crowd freaks out. They stare each other down. Boom, cut the pay-per-view. But the stare down went a little long, in my opinion. And yeah, that was AEW All Out. Good show. Long show. Like I said, it took me 4 days to watch this. Even after watching for 4 days, I was still kind of burnt out. Like I said, by the time I got to the 6-man Darby House of Black match, I was like, holy fuck, I hope this pay-per-view's over. Like, I want to move on, you know? I don't want to feel like I'm doing a fucking marathon of watching wrestling, you know? Now, it was a marathon because I watched a lot of shows, but it felt even longer because one of the shows went on forever. So, that was unfortunate. Yeah, it was a good show. Like I said, I highly recommend the AEW Tag Team title match. I recommend that. I recommend the Trios match. That was really good. What else? I'm taking a look at the pay-per-view real quick. And probably Eddie Kingston and Tomohiro Ishii. If I had to pick some matches to recommend, I'd pick those 3. I think those were some standout matches from the pay-per-view. So, after the pay-per-view, there was the incident, the media scrum. And that's just when all hell broke loose for AEW. As far as the post-media scrum, I listened to a little bit of it. I listened to the CM Punk portion. I listened to a little bit of Tony Storm and Swerve in Our Glory. But it was just whatever for me. I also listened to the Jericho one. Jericho and Punk were probably the most noteworthy interviews from that. And yeah, as far as Punk's portion goes, I wasn't really a fan of what he said and, you know, some of the things that he said. And honestly, it really just made AEW look bad. When you have your top star shitting on, like, wrestlers and your EVPs, and obviously there's some friction there, and there's probably more to the story than what we know. It just looked really fucking bad, especially with Tony Khan right beside him. I wish he kind of stepped in and maybe been like, yeah, you know what, let's move on, maybe no more questions, let Punk go enjoy his victory, whatever. And then all the Colt Cabana shit that got brought up, it was petty, and I was not a fan of it at all. Then obviously, what's been reported, CM Punk went to his locker room. Kenny Omega and the Bucks decided to go and confront him. I think more specifically the Bucks went to confront him about some of the stuff that he said. What's being reported as like the definitive story is CM Punk felt threatened. He threw a punch. Things get a little hairy in between there. What's said is one of the Bucks took a chair to the eye, something like that. Kenny Omega got bit. Just a lot of ridiculous shit. We have that, you know, Punk shitting on AEW, and then this happens. It was a bad week for AEW, in my opinion. Like, and what really sucks is, like, you know, this overshadowed the whole pay-per-view. I thought it was a good show. It overshadowed MJF's return to AEW. It brought a really negative light to AEW, especially coming off like a big pay-per-view like that. You wanna have some more positive press, and it was just all negative, and that's all I'll talk about with that stuff. It's unfortunate it happened, but it did happen. Obviously, that led to CM Punk and the Bucks and Kenny Omega all being stripped of their title. Punk because he's injured. How fucking unfortunate, dude. You win the title twice. Both times you have to vacate it in like less than a week. No, I think this first run lasted 2 weeks. And then the second run lasted 1 night. And then he had to give it up. So that's unfortunate, you know, with the whole interim stuff. Interim champions, you know, the women's championship. I think the only title that has not had interim champions yet is the tag titles. I don't consider the Atlantic title because that's too new. But yeah, TNT, they've had an interim champion. World title has had interim champion. Women's champion has interim title. I think people just want a champion that they can get behind. And, now we have Moxley. We'll talk about that more in the Grand Slam stuff. But the Dynamite that followed the pay-per-view, they vacated all the titles. They announced there's going to be a tournament for the world title that's already concluded. And they also announced on that episode of Dynamite they're going to crown a trios champion, new trios champions, plural, and that is going to be Death Triangle and Best Friends in Orange Cassidy. Whoever won was going to be the champions. I'm not a fan of that decision. So it was a good match. Honestly, it really reminded me of like AEW from the beginning. Like this match really reminded me of like an early episode of Dynamite. I don't know if it was like the guys involved or whatever the case may be. It felt like a early episode of Dynamite, and it kind of made me feel nostalgic. It was a very fast-paced match, and Death Triangle ends up picking up the win, and they are the new Trios champion. For me, personally, I'm not a fan of this. The one reason, I'm not a fan of the double champion. You have Pac, he's the All-Atlantic champion, and now 1/3 of the Trios champions. It's like, your roster is so big that I don't think you need someone to be a double champion. I just don't think it makes too much sense. Pac's doing his thing with the Atlantic title. Let him do that. Maybe have a longer feud with Kip Sabian. I don't think he needed the Trios title as well. Like, it's cool to see Phoenix and Pentagon with some gold. But honestly, give it to Best Friends in Orange Cassidy. They're not fucking doing anything with them. This can be something for them to do. I think they make a good Trios team. They've been like a Trios team since the start of AEW. I think they would have been the better champions. Plus, you could have had Kip Sabian come out, get involved, cost Pac the match, and then that leads to a rematch for the Atlantic title. And they could have continued that feud. So I wasn't a fan of them putting the titles on Death Triangle. As far as some other stuff that happened on the show, kind of leading into the Grand Slam, they announced that Stokely Hathaway's group is going to be called The Firm, which I think it's a good name, but for the wrong group. Why don't you have the lawyer, Mark Sterling, and his group with Josh Woods and Tony Nese? Why aren't they called The Firm? Why is the guy, you have a lawyer character and he doesn't have a group called The Firm? What? It just blows my mind. I just thought that was like, that's such an easy name that you can give to their group. You can come up with another name for fucking MJF and Stokely's group. What the fuck? Firm. You have a lawyer. What the fuck? Doesn't that just make sense? Just something that popped in my mind, and they kind of just announced, MJF's going to go for the world title. Obviously, the Gun Club's going to go for the tag titles. Lee Moriarty is going to go for the pure title. It's a weird one, but whatever. Ethan Page is going to go for the Atlantic title. I like that. I'd like to see an Ethan Page Pac match between the two. And if they do end up doing it, I can see Ethan Page winning, since, like I said, Pac's already the Trios champion. Let him run with either or. But if you're going to give him the Trios title, hey, give the Atlantic title to someone else. And I think Ethan Page would be a good person to put it on. And then Morrissey, I don't remember what they said what Morrissey's going to do. Probably the TNT title, I would assume. Maybe a match with Wardlow eventually. Also on that show, leading up into Grand Slam, you had Daniel Garcia beating Wheeler Yuta for the pure title. That was a really good match. Garcia, like I said, Garcia won in his hometown of Buffalo, which was cool. So yeah, speaking of the Ring of Honor stuff, to start out, AEW Dynamite Grand Slam. We'll talk about that show next. The show started with Claudio Castagnoli and Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor World title. And they were really building up this match as if Jericho won, he'd be an 8-time world champion. Overall, it was a good match. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, a surprising turn of events here, in my opinion. Maybe not so surprising for other people. Jericho wins and is the new Ring of Honor World Champion. I like this, and I don't like this. I like him having the world title only if it leads to something happening with Ring of Honor. Like if Jericho being the champion leads to Ring of Honor getting their own show, that's cool. But if he's just going to be the Ring of Honor champion on AEW, might as well have just kept it on Claudio. You know, like, if you're going to lead up and build towards a Ring of Honor show, hell yeah, you're going to do a pay-per-view. Yeah, put Jericho, give him the title. You'll sell some more buys for the pay-per-view. People will probably want to see that. But yeah, if it's not going to lead to anything and they're just doing more Ring of Honor stuff on AEW, just leave the title on Claudio. And then eventually, when, you know, a TV deal is secured, put the title on Jericho, kind of like when TNA was coming to, when they first got their Spike TV deal, and at the time AJ Styles was the champion, and then they're like, you know what, fuck it, we're going to put it on Jeff Jarrett because he's more of a name. We're going to use his kind of already established popularity, not established popularity, but he's already established character. People are familiar with him from like WWF, WCW. People aren't really aware of AJ Styles yet. So we'll put the title on like a big name. Like I said, I wouldn't have minded that happening with Jericho if hopefully this leads to Ring of Honor getting a show. Maybe a pay-per-view soon. They're probably going to do Final Battle, obviously coming up in December. But, you know, if they have a show before then, you know, that'd be cool. I'd like to see that. Other than that, one thing I did not like about this match specifically was the four-man booth. I think it was fucking brutal in this match. You had, I think it was Excalibur, Taz, Tony Schiavone, and Ian Riccaboni, and it was just way too much. First of all, you're introducing somebody that people aren't really familiar with, Ian Riccaboni, but I like that little touch that they add him because he was, you know, the Ring of Honor commentator, and he kind of brings that Ring of Honor experience to the booth. Let him replace somebody. Get rid of Schiavone. And if that's the case, I don't think Schiavone really adds anything to that. You know, just have like Taz, Excalibur, and Ian Riccaboni. But when you have the four of them, it's too much. Stick to a three-man group. Even three is kind of too much sometimes. But four, it's just a fucking shit show. Next, on the AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, we had the rematch from All Out. Swerve in Our Glory versus the Acclaimed for the tag titles. This was a good match. The Acclaim won and are the new AEW Tag Team Champions. Unfortunately, it was not as good as their first match. That first match was just fucking lightning in a bottle. They had something special there. Crowd was really into it. They should have just made the call there, like, you know, give the titles to the Acclaim and then maybe do the rematch here. But they decided to do, you know, they did the rematch, but unfortunately, the Acclaimed were the challengers again. So I didn't really like Billy getting involved in the finish. I think that, like, for me, it tainted the Acclaim's win a little bit because it was like, it's technically not a, you know, this is their first big title win, and it's a little tainted that, you know, they had some involvement with Billy Gunn. But yeah, it's been awesome to see the Acclaimed kind of go from two guys that were brought in during the pandemic era to kind of, you know, help fill out the, do the dark matches and shit. And then one day they're just like, hey, we're going to throw them together. They started to become more of a team, more cohesive. They developed the Acclaimed gimmick. And they have started from the bottom, and now they are on the top of the mountain. I think that's just really cool to see that they're like a homegrown team. You know, they started out as two singles guys. I don't think they really had any previous experience outside of AEW wrestling together. But once you put them together in AEW, it was just magic. And I'm happy to see that. They've really come a long way. They've won over the crowd, and yeah, I'm just really happy for them. Congratulations to Anthony Bowens and Max Caster and Billy Gunn too, because right now he's just as part of the group as the other guys. Scissor me daddy ass. Next match was Pac versus Orange Cassidy for the Atlantic title. It was a good match, but another ending that kind of sucked. I thought the ending sucked at the All Out pay-per-view with Kip Sabian. This is another match that just did not have a good ending. They were fighting on the outside, something about the referee getting distracted. Pac hits Orange Cassidy with a hammer and pins him. The crowd did not like this. They fucking died for this ending. It was kind of brutal. I for a second I thought they were gonna put the title on Orange Cassidy because I'm like, oh, I guess Pac, you know, he's a dual champion. All Atlantic and trios. Oh, maybe they'll drop the All Atlantic title to Orange Cassidy, but they did not. They decided to keep the title on Pac. So, hopefully, like I said, hopefully they build to an Ethan Page Pac match. I think that'd be good. I think the next pay-per-view coming up is going to be Full Gear. I believe that is sometime November. Could be wrong on that. So yeah, Pac retains and he's still the Atlantic champion. Next was Athena, Britt Baker, Serena Deeb, and Toni Storm in an interim AEW Women's title match. I'm going to be honest, I did not. So I watched the post All Out show, and then I missed like 1 or 2 episodes in between because I was like working that night. I didn't get a chance to watch it. So I don't know what the build-up was to this match, but for me watching like All Out, post All Out, and then like going straight into Grand Slam, I don't know how this match came together. Let's talk about that after. So anyways, good match. Toni Storm wins, retains the title. After the match, Britt Baker attacks Toni Storm. Jamie Hayter comes out. Seems like she's going to turn on Britt, but they double team Toni. And then after the match, you have Britt, Jamie, Rebel, and Serena Deeb attacking Toni and Athena. And then that leads to Saraya, formerly known as Paige, in WWE, making her debut. And she clears the ring. She scares everybody out of it. I don't know if I'm a fan of her in AEW yet, because I haven't read anything. I don't know if she's cleared to wrestle. When she came out, it didn't blow me away. I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. Like, I thought I would have had a more positive reaction, but to me, it's just like, if she's not going to wrestle, I don't know why she's there, to be honest. I don't think you need, like, a woman kind of commissioner governing the women's division. Like, oh, you should get a title. All right, you're going to have a match, whatever. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if she's going to wrestle or not, but if she's not a fan, if she is, we'll have to wait to see if she still has it, because she hasn't wrestled in like 5 years, maybe. Could be wrong on that timeline, but I would say at least 3 or 4. So we'll have to see what it leads to. Other than that, I don't know why Athena was in this match. No offense to her, but she just lost to Jade a few weeks ago at All Out for the TBS title. Why is she getting a women's title match? Like I said, I missed a few weeks, so I don't know why, but just for me watching All Out, I don't know why she was in this match. Watching this match made me really like Serena Deeb, and I'm like, man, I wish they did more with her. One thing I would like to see her do would be join Blackpool Combat Club. You know, after a match, have Regal come out and kind of scout her, maybe do that for a few weeks, and eventually he'd be like, you know what, I want you to join Blackpool Combat Club. I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be a good look, not only for the women's division, because in the women, they're kind of being put on par with the men. And I already like, you know, some of the women's stuff that they have kind of mixed in with the men, where you have like Chris Statlander with the Best Friends, Julia Hart with the House of Black. Formerly she was with the Varsity Blondes. You got Ty Mello and Anna Jay with the Jericho Appreciation Society, Bunny with Butcher and Blade. I like when they integrate the women with the men, and Serena Deeb's one that I'd like to see in the Blackpool Combat Club. Either her or Layla Hirsch, but I think Layla's injured right now. Yeah, I'd like to see Serena Deeb, because she fits it. You know, the woman of 1,000 holds. She's got a good ground game. I think she'd be a good fit for Blackpool Combat Club, so I'd like to see that. And then last but not least, speaking of Blackpool Combat Club, we had the finals of the AEW tournament. Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson for the AEW World title. No interim title, because they just vacated the title with Punk being injured. It was a really good match. I'm going to be honest, I thought Bryan Danielson was going to win. Because it was reported that Jon Moxley was going to take a vacation after All Out, I'm like, oh, they're probably going to do that after. You know, put the title on Bryan Danielson and have him have a run with the title, and then Moxley can come back after. But, hey, Moxley's a champion. I enjoyed his interim run. I like Moxley as champion. It's just something different. You know, he appears on the show more often. He's wrestling all different kind of people. Like when he was the interim champion, he had that match with Mance Warner on Rampage. This past week, he just wrestled Juice Robinson on Dynamite. Even in his interim run after he won the world title, that little feud that he had with Brody King. I like it. I like when Moxley's champion. He's constantly competing on the show. I like him tussling with all these different kind of guys. From the bottom to top, he'll wrestle them all. So I like that a lot. Right now, it looks like they're building towards Jon Moxley and MJF. Probably going to happen at Full Gear. Right there, those two matches for the next pay-per-view, MJF and Jon Moxley and Ethan Page versus Pac. That's the start of a pretty good pay-per-view, in my opinion. So I look forward to seeing what they build from that. But I know right now, Wheeler Yuta is having like a small little feud with MJF. But I think eventually the long-term goal is Jon Moxley and MJF. And will MJF finally have a world title run? Hopefully, we'll have to wait to see. So we got one more show to watch. Honestly, this is not one that I planned on watching. It kind of just happened. Like I said, I was sick, so that delayed everything. And then I saw this show was happening, the TNA Victory Road. And I'm going to be honest, I used to be a huge fucking TNA fan. I used to be, I don't want to say a diehard, but it was like what AEW was for me. Like, I was kind of burnt out on WWE. Like, it just really didn't do it for me. When TNA was there, like peak TNA, like I got into TNA around when they got on Spike TV. That's when I started watching consistently. And I remember watching Bound for Glory 2005. A lot of awesome matches. You had the 4-way Monsters Ball match. Jarrett and Rhino in the main event because Nash had to pull out. You had the Iron Man match, Daniels and AJ Styles for the X Division title. You had Jushin Liger versus Samoa Joe. A lot of awesome matches. Like I said, I've always been a TNA fan. It sucks that seeing what it was and then seeing how it's like slowly diminished, it sucks. You know, the whole Hogan stuff, and then they had trouble with the network, finding a consistent network after that. I think they're on an upswing now. Honestly, it's cool to see that they're able to pull in these kind of bigger names. You know, guys like, I don't want to even say like they're the biggest names, but pulling in like top indie talent, like having Laredo Kid, Black Taurus, Alex Zane, the Ring of Honor guys, the Honor No More, Mike Bailey, who was a top indie star. It's cool to see that they still have wrestlers that want to go there, because for a bit it did seem like TNA was like a death sentence. Like, when you have no other options, then you go to TNA. But right now they're putting on a good product. I've been kind of keeping up with the results and stuff, and I look forward to watching Bound for Glory coming up in a few weeks. They got a pretty good show lined up there. Obviously the main event is going to be Josh Alexander versus Eddie Edwards for the world title. Let's go through this pay-per-view and then we'll kind of hype up Bound for Glory a little bit. So, like I said, I haven't watched a TNA show in 6, maybe, I would say at least 5 to 6 years. We'll say solid 5. I haven't watched in a solid 5 years. Like a full TNA show. I was going into it like pretty hyped. I'm like, I've heard a lot of good things about TNA recently. They're called Impact Wrestling, but for me, I just call them TNA. I might switch between the two. I'm probably just going to call them TNA for the most part, so we'll stick with that. TNA Victory Road starts out with Mike Bailey versus Delirious for the X Division title. Good opening match to start up the pay-per-view. Mike Bailey won and retained his title. It's cool to see Mike Bailey. I remember watching him in PWG clips like around 2015, 16, around there. He had some visa issues where he was banned from the U.S. I think it was like for 5 years. So he went from like a talent that was kind of prospering and kind of making the rounds and on the up, and it seemed like he was going to be a breakout star. And then he got hit with that visa stuff, and then he couldn't travel. And it's nice to see him kind of re-emerging. And I think he's doing a great job in TNA with the X Division title. And he faced Delirious, who's a former Ring of Honor wrestler. I enjoyed it. I liked seeing both of these guys together. Next, we had Motor City Machine Guns versus Honor No More, which consisted of PCO and Vincent. This was another good match. Good to see the Motor City Machine Guns again. We talked about them earlier on All Out in their match against FTR and Wardlow. Hopefully that leads to maybe an FTR match versus the Machine Guns. Maybe, we'll see. Because, we'll talk about a star that from AEW that came to this show. AEW superstar and a former AEW superstar. And maybe there would be a little talent exchange there again. You know, the forbidden door is open again. But yeah, one thing I gotta say, PCO, yo, please take it easy. This man, he's like 50 plus, just taking fucking crazy bumps. He took a crazy bump in this match. He went for a dive out the ring. He went for a middle rope dive like a cannonball, and he just fucking crashed and burned. Almost landed on his head. Looked fucking brutal. Yeah, PCO, please take it easy. Take it. It's crazy enough you're wrestling at your age and then doing some of the shit that you do. Fuck me, I cringe when I see it. It's just brutal. Next we had Mickie James versus Giselle Shaw. This was a good match. Mickie won. They're doing a little angle where Mickey's kind of like on her retirement tour. She's gonna have a match at Bound for Glory against Mia Yim. If she loses, she retires. If she wins, she's gonna keep on going until she loses. And she took on Giselle Shaw. Giselle, I'm not too familiar with. She was good. I enjoyed what I watched. I thought the match was a little long, but other than that, I thought it was fine. Next, we had a hell of a match. Trey Miguel, Mia Yim, Kenny King, Laredo Kid, Frankie Kazarian, Alex Zane, Yuya Uemura. I probably butchered that pronunciation. I butchered the pronunciation of pronunciation. Yuya Uemura and Black Taurus in a 9-person intergender triple threat revolver match. Winner becomes the #1 contender for the X Division title. So the way it worked is they had 3 people, and then once one person gets eliminated, another person would come in, and it would keep being a triple threat until the final 3, and then whoever wins is the winner. And it was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. One thing I want to talk about. So hold on, we'll talk about the winner. Really good match. Frankie Kazarian wins. He's going to face Mike Bailey at for the X Division title at Bound for Glory. That's going to be a good match. I can't wait to see that. It was nice to see Kenny King. It was also nice to see Frankie Kazarian because he's part of the AEW roster, but he doesn't really appear unless it's Dark or Elevation or something like that. That's unfortunate. I do like Frankie, and you know, when he was doing the Elite Hunter thing, they really did not do anything with that at all, so that was unfortunate. But you know, it's cool to see him in TNA. Obviously, he has that history with them. He was in TNA for quite a bit of time, a couple different times in the beginning, and then, you know, he had a singles run. He had the tag team run with Bad Influence, Christopher Daniels, and yeah, like I said, a lot of history there. One thing, I was ready to hate this match, to be honest, and the reason for it is when I saw Mia Yim was in this match, and no offense to her, I think she's good. I like watching Mia. For me, I'm not an intergender wrestling fan. The intergender wrestling stuff that I've seen, it just looks bad. It makes the guys look bad because they're taking like weak-looking punches and kicks and moves from these girls, and they have to sell it. Intergender wrestling, I'm not a fan. But I will say, all her stuff looked good. It didn't look like she was throwing like shitty little punches or anything. She didn't do any like crazy moves where it's like unbelievable. It did also help that everyone was kind of her size, like Trey Miguel, similar in size, probably in height and not so much in weight, maybe similar in weight. But everyone was kind of around her size, so I think that really helped. But you know, if she was taking on somebody like PCO, for example, I think that would be not believable, in my opinion. A couple other things. Trey Miguel has a really cool entrance. I like that whole graffiti thing on the Titantron. For me personally, I would have liked to see Dante Martin here instead of Kazarian. I do like Kazarian. I've been a fan of his for a while. But, you know, with Dante, it's kind of similar to like the Yuya Uemura or even Konosuke Takeshita. I probably picture both of those names. Uemura and Takeshita. Where it's like, you know, we see a bright future in you. We want you to go wrestle in all these different promotions, like going from Japan to the States, wrestling at all these different promotions, get some experience, go learn some different styles. I think Dante would have been good as well, like doing that, where he's kind of like a green guy in AEW, and it's like, okay, you know, go spread your wings, go to these smaller companies, and no offense to TNA, go to these smaller companies and have killer matches with these guys. It makes more sense for Frankie because he has that history with TNA, but I would have liked to see like a Dante Martin versus Mike Bailey. I think they could have had a killer match. Next thing, Bobby Fish came out, former AEW superstar. He's been in the news a lot lately for some of his controversial comments with CM Punk and all that kind of stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of the stuff that he was saying didn't really make him look too good. Like all that drama was going on with Punk, and then he was kind of throwing in his 2 cents and like shitting on Punk and stuff like that. It's like, there's no need for that, you know? It's like, I don't know, I just feel like he ended up looking worse. The whole thing was like, oh, you know, fuck Punk, and the whole internet community was like, fuck Punk, oh, what a piece of shit, ruining AEW, ruining the backstage morale. Bobby Fish was kind of like dogpiling on that, and I don't know, he just kind of came off as like an asshole. You know, he somehow ended up looking worse than CM Punk, which, whatever. Came out, he cut a promo, he's saying he's a controversial figure, blah, blah, blah. He says, so this is weird thing. So he comes out, he's talking about the Impact locker room, he's like, you know, they're legit, you know, they'd come out for a fight. And then he's interrupted by a couple guys, Mahabali Shira and Raj Singh. And they're like, you know, if you're looking for a fight, you know, Shira will give you a fight. And, you know, Fish goes, or Bobby goes, you know, I don't know who you are. Why are you here? I don't know who you are. Which was dumb, because, like, you just put over the roster, and now you're just shitting on the roster. So it's like, which one is it? Are you praising the roster, or are you shitting on it? Because if you're shitting on it, you look like a piece of shit. Because, like, I hate when they do this with, like, other people. They've done it plenty of times as well, even in other companies, where it's like, oh, we get this bigger name from another company, and they have to shit on this company, make it seem like they're a big star because they're coming from a bigger company. There's no need for that, because you're shitting on them. Not only are you shitting on these guys, which is fine, because they're the heels, you're making the whole company look bad. You know, so that was just my 2 cents. They had a little brawl, and Fish ended up getting the upper hand on it. The crowd was really into this. Like, they were really into Bobby Fish. I was kind of surprised, to be honest. I wasn't expecting to get this much of a reaction. Next, we had a 6-man tag, Honor No More. Eddie Edwards, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett taking on Rich Swann, Heath, and Josh Alexander. It was a pretty good match. Fun little 6-man tag. Honor No More ends up taking that win. Next, we had Jordan Grace versus Max the Impaler. This was a pick your poison match. Jordan Grace is going to face Misha Slamovich, I believe is her name. I'm not too familiar with her, so I could be butchering that as well. He's going to be facing her at Bound for Glory, but before that, they were doing a pick your poison match. So Misha, or Masha, whatever her name is, ended up picking Max the Impaler as an opponent for Jordan Grace. They had a pretty good match. Started out kind of meh. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really a fan of this when they started the match, but, you know, I think they rebounded and they got me into it by the end of it. And then next, they announced that Raven is going to be the next entrant into the TNA Hall of Fame. Bit of a weird one, but it does make sense. He's got a lot of history with TNA. He's a former world champion, NWA world champion. You know, his beginning run with TNA was good, but, like, after, I'd say, like, 2005, he really did nothing in TNA. So, he only had, like, a short, good run with TNA. I'd say, like, maybe 2 years. Tops. Because, yeah, he came in like 2013, and then, like, he won the title in 2015. Yeah, it was a good 2 years, but after that, it was kind of downhill. Like, there's nothing really memorable. Like, does anyone remember his group Serotonin? It was kind of like a Ravens flock thing when he had, you know, someone who we talked about earlier, Frankie Kazarian, Matt Bentley, Johnny Devine. What else did he do? Yeah, I can't really remember too much. He did some of the ECW stuff, EV2 versus, I think it was Fortune. That was the group at the time. Yeah, other than that, I can't really think of. He mainly did, like, hardcore matches with, like, Abyss and shit after that, so. Yeah, whatever. You know, it's cool to see him. Hopefully he does something at the pay-per-view, too. I don't know. They probably could have come up with a better name. No offense to Raven. I like Raven. But, yeah, in terms of his TNA, like, maybe Kazarian. Give it to Kazarian. He's been in TNA longer than Raven. He's done some more eventful stuff. Multiple-time tag team champion, multiple-time X Division champion. Had a really good match with Christian. There was like a point where it seemed like they were going to push him into the main event in like 2007, but they never ended up like pulling the trigger. Had a couple matches for the world title. I remember it was him, Scott Steiner, and Samoa Joe. I think it was TNA Sacrifice in a three-way for the world title. It might have been for the world title, I believe it was. So yeah, that would have been cool to see Frankie get inducted. But whatever, Raven's inducted. And then last but not least, the main event of TNA Victory Road, the big match. Steve Maclin, Sami Callihan, and Moose in a three-way barbed wire massacre match. I really enjoyed this. I'm not a fan of like the really hardcore shit, like deathmatch style, but I thought this was good. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was going to be a little more bloody and gory, like seeing people get ripped apart, ripped to shreds with barbed wire, but I think they trimmed the barbs on it. Because there was a bunch of times where they got stuck in the barbed wire, but they didn't really, like you would expect, like they were all wearing shirts and shit, and there was like none of them ripped and stuff, so it wasn't authentic barbed wire. Not to downplay the match, but it was good. It was good. I don't want to downplay it. But yeah, they all put on a great performance. I thought they all shined. A lot of crazy spots. Moose almost fucking killed himself doing a dive over the top rope like 2 minutes in. It was scary. It was PCO scary. Yeah, Steve Maclin. Not too familiar with him. I'm familiar with like his career, with like he was in WWE, he was in the tag team Forgotten Sons. It's cool to see that he's come to TNA and kind of like built a name for himself and established him. He ended up winning the match, so obviously Impact sees something in him, and they wanted to do something big with him. So I enjoyed him in this match. I've seen a couple clips of him and some other stuff, and I've liked what I've seen. I wasn't really a fan of the ending, where Maclin, like the whole match, he was like the babyface. Like he was just getting the shit beat out of him, just fucking like tortured with all this hardcore stuff. And then to end the match, he like low blows Sami Callihan, like literally kicks him in the dick, and then hit his finisher on a door with barbed wire, and then won. So I thought it was a weird ending. It kind of like destroyed everything that they were doing, where it makes it seem like he was like this awesome hardcore, you know, he's a former Marine, I believe. I think he's a Marine. He has some sort of military background. He put on like this crazy babyface performance, and then just fucking destroyed it all by low blowing Sami and hitting his finisher. And it wasn't even like Sami was like really beating his ass or anything. He was just like, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna low blow this guy. I want out of this match, kind of thing. So yeah, the ending was kind of meh. I'm gonna be honest, I'm surprised they did not save this for Bound for Glory, because like this seems like a big match that they like you'd have on like a big show. But then when I was really thinking about it, I'm like, you know, they're having a pay-per-view 2 weeks before Bound for Glory. Like, what the fuck are you gonna put on here to make people want to watch this? So that's probably why they put this match on here, since, you know, there was no big title match, because Josh Alexander was in the 6-man with Honor No More. So this was the main event. This was that big match that they were kind of building the whole pay-per-view on. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think Impact's got a solid roster. I like all the people that they've kind of been bringing in, and I look forward to what they continue to do and what they continue to build towards. I don't know if Bobby Fish is going to be with them for the long time, or if he's just there for a few weeks, few months, come in and do some stuff. I also like that they're bringing guys from like New Japan, AAA, making it feel like really international. Like everyone around the world wants to come and compete at Impact Wrestling. So I like that a lot. You know what? I have a love-hate relationship with Impact. I used to love it, and when it's bad, it's fucking horrendous. You know, they're kind of like a cockroach, where like in the nuclear fallouts, you would think that they're gonna die, and they just never die. I'm honestly surprised they're still around, but I'm happy that they're still around, and I hopefully they continue to like, I don't know where they're gonna do Bound for Glory, like where they do their Impact. That's where they did this Victory Road show. It's a very small studio, maybe 200 people, maybe 250, around that, but it's a very small little studio. I don't know if they plan on running like a bigger arena for Bound for Glory since it's their bigger pay-per-view. I gotta look into that. But if they are doing like a big show, like a bigger arena, hopefully they do well and sell some good tickets, and hopefully there's a good turnout for it. So I'm rooting for them. I'm looking forward to Bound for Glory. If I do another one of these video reviews for wrestling, you know, maybe we'll do one in a few weeks. Bound for Glory will definitely be a show that I want to check out. And then we got a little bit of wrestling news, some big things in the wrestling world. God damn, that roster, I was talking about how, you know, deep it is. And it's deep, but they're also kind of hurting right now. You got a lot of people that are out. Obviously, you got Punk out with injury, and there's reports he might not be coming back. You got Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. They're suspended. Who knows when they'll come back. Malachi Black, is he gone? Is he still with AEW? It's reported that he's gone. He's saying he's still with AEW. He's just going to take some time off. Is he going back to WWE? I'm not sure. Bobby Fish gone from AEW. Buddy Matthews, I think, is gone from AEW officially. So on top of all those suspensions and releases and stuff, you've got a ton of people out with injury. Thunder Rosa out with injury, Christian Cage out with injury, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Chris Statlander, Darius Martin, Santana, Ruby Riott, and then you got Jeff Hardy, he's out with suspension. So I'm really interested to see what they're going to do going forward these next few months with AEW. With, you know, a lot of the names I mentioned aren't top names, but it kind of affects the whole card from top to bottom, men to women. And I'm interested to see if they're going to start using like some of those guys that they've kind of had for a while. Guys like a Kip Sabian, Lance Archer, Miro. Come on, put Miro back on. Let's get something consistently going with Miro. They've got a good roster. Like I said, a lot of people. Hopefully they start to use them more. Because, yeah, a lot of injuries right now. So hopefully they find that sweet spot. Hopefully they find something for Brody King. With, you know, House of Black kind of imploding. Hopefully they can find a spot for him. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to do. Who's going to be the top? It's a good thing MJF's back. Obviously, that adds some star potential for them. A little lacking on the roster, but I think they've got a big enough roster to kind of balance. Actually, someone I wanted to talk about that I didn't get to talk about, Swerve Strickland. All that stuff that he's been doing with the Acclaim. Honestly, he was probably one of the highlights of all these shows that I've watched. Really, I haven't watched too much of Shane Strickland. Like, I didn't watch too much of his stuff on the Indies or Lucha Underground. Watched a little bit of him in NXT. And then by the time he came to the main roster, he was there for like 2 weeks and then he was gone. So I'm not too familiar with him, but I've always heard good things about him. But his AEW run so far, I'm a big fan. Big Shane Swerve Strickland fan. So I'd like to see him get a little push. You know, it seems like they're going to break up Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. So I think he can be a nice little heel. And, you know, I think they can do some big stuff with Keith Lee as well. AEW is a pretty interesting place right now. They seem to be in a, I don't want to say a transitional period, but they're in an interesting period where, like I said, they've got a lot of injuries racked up, and they've got a lot of interesting people on the roster that they can use and do stuff with. So I look forward to seeing who they're going to use and kind of build up. And then last but not least, one more news thing before we end this out. This has been a long video. My throat hurts. I actually had to stop recording because I'm not used to talking for this long. I don't do videos like that anymore where I'm consistently talking for like an hour straight. So this has been an exhausting video, but last but not least, we were talking about Logan Paul earlier, and it has, I think it's confirmed, Logan Paul, Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. I don't know the pay-per-view name, probably Crown Jewel or some shit. What an interesting match. Logan Paul, I think he's got 2 victories in WWE, one at WrestleMania, one at SummerSlam. 2-0, competing for the Universal title. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Obviously, they've got a lot of faith in Logan to put him in a match like this for the world title, like headline a big show in Saudi Arabia. What the fuck? When I first read that there was rumors of them doing this, I'm like, no, this has got to be a joke. Like, you're kidding. And, no, it's real. It's real, and, I don't know what to think. It's just so weird. Logan Paul is going to be main eventing a WWE pay-per-view against their top guy, Roman Reigns. What the fuck? What world do we live in? This year has been a crazy one for wrestling. I can't wait to look back on this year when they do, like, these rewinds. You know, like, 10 years from now, they're gonna fucking look at 2022 as, like, a crazy wild year. Vince gone, the death of Scott Hall, all this AEW drama. There's probably other stuff that I can't think of right now. There's just been so much in a short period of time where it's just like, God, the year's not even over yet. And there's probably much more crazy shit to happen. So, what a crazy year. Who would have fucking assumed Roman Reigns and Logan Paul main eventing a WWE pay-per-view for the world title? Not even main eventing a pay-per-view, the world championship. A fucking YouTuber who did boxing. It's fucking weird. It's fucking weird. I don't want to shit on Logan Paul completely. We'll have to wait to see if it delivers. Just a strange, strange match. I still can't wrap my head around it. It's like, Roman Reigns, world champion, yeah. He's going to face his next challenger, Logan Paul. What? It's a weird one. God, so strange. So that is going to be it for me and this video. It's been a long one. Hopefully you've stuck with me the whole time. Go check out those matches I recommend, especially AEW All Out, Swerve in Our Glory taking on the Acclaimed. Fucking incredible match. The Triple Threat Women's match from NXT Worlds Collide. Highly recommend that one. A lot of good wrestling. You know what? Overall, you would think that, like, you're watching a lot of shows, a lot of wrestling. There's going to be some bad stuff in there, like just the odds. But yeah, man, a lot of good wrestling right now. A lot of just good wrestling all over the place. WWE, Impact, AEW. I'm not really too familiar with, like, New Japan stuff, so I can't really speak on that. But from what I've read and stuff, they're killing it there. So, hey, what a good time to be a wrestling fan. Tons of good shows. Seth Rollins actually recently put out, he was doing an interview or something like that, and he made he said something along the lines of, like, you know, what a great time to be a wrestling fan. Like, every week you're having these fucking great matches. And he's right. Like, there's going to be a killer match every show. Maybe Raw, Impact, NXT, AEW, SmackDown. Just, there's so much out there. And everyone's, like, at the top of their game. It's a really good time to be a wrestling fan. There's so much talent everywhere, and they're all killing it. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe we'll do this again in a few weeks. We'll see what shows are coming up. Obviously, Bound for Glory is coming up in 2 weeks. There's that. There's WWE Extreme Rules. I don't know when that's happening. I would assume maybe mid-October. NXT is going to be doing Halloween Havoc. That show's already looking pretty good. You got the 5-way ladder match for the North American title. You got the 3-way match, Ilya Dragunov, Tyler Bate, and Braun Breaker for the NXT title. I don't know any other matches that are announced. Those are the only two that popped in my head. So maybe end of October we'll do another one of these. Maybe we'll make this a monthly thing. I don't know. Whenever there's wrestling and there's wrestling to talk about, I'll do one of these videos. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Keep up with everything that's going on the channel. I'll catch you guys next time. And until then, guys, peace out.